Is kite safety an extra? Kitesurf industry keeps on evolving, and sometimes decisions are made that do not consider the best interests of the users, or make them need additional information to puzzle together their gear. Let me explain this. When I started to kitesurf way back, the kite came with a bar that fitted that kite, a bag, a pump, a repair kit, a leash, a kite manual, and all you needed to practice the sport. As time passed, things evolved and some parts became extra. Some make sense. For example, the pump became an extra, as you don't need a pump with every kite you buy. The bar became just one for all the kites. This can be good and bad, as the bar now sets the parameters of all the kites and can limit development, but at the same time make it easier for the brands and also for the customers. One thing that makes less sense is that the red on the left is replaced with other colors due to aesthetic reasons. The red on the left serves to know the left side, and quickly knowing you lose priority. The safety release should all be pushed away to make it a standard. It's like if we put the brake in a different place in the car. Doesn't make any sense, right? We're now seeing brands taking away the safety knife and selling it as an extra on the harness. This is not often used, but in case of life-threatening danger, it can be the difference between making it or not. Should we have to get it as an extra? It's like the safety belt on a car or the airbags. And they became standard, not because we use them all the time, but because when the problem appears, it is there. I'm sure there isn't a significant price difference. But if you use the harness for windsurfing or wing, you also don't need it. The back handle is something that is also being removed from the harnesses. It's something instructors use to teach and that can be used to rescue people in case of need. I have saved people by getting them to hold on to the handle before. If it's not there, it will be much more complicated. You can also get this as an extra, and it is also not used in the other sports. So what should you look for when getting gear for kitesurfing? What are the little things you should look for or buy if they are not included with the equipment? Let me give you my tips on things to search for in all of the equipment you might need and why I recommend having them. On the kite. Kite design is related to your needs and abilities, and there are several types of kites to choose from. Often the decision comes from new versus used. A new kite is generally the best option as the kite is packed with the latest innovations the designers have come up with. But that comes with a heavier price tag. Sometimes you can also get some new equipment from the previous year with a nice discount. The most common situation is to get a used kite to start as you feel that you will abuse it a lot after the lessons. This is the worst reason to get a used kite, as it has already been beaten up and will get destroyed faster. So once you decide to get gear, make sure you have adequately learned and you are already not destroying the kite so much. This is what the lessons are for, to learn how to use the kite without destroying it. So when you're buying a kite, one of the things you need to look at is how the fabric is. So if you look at the fabrics here, on a more used kite, you see that it's a little bit broken, while on a brand new one, you have almost no breaking of the fibers. So this is one of the things that you can do to check if the kite is fairly new. The bars. The bars is one of the things that we're going to buy together with our kite. And now the brands make one bar for all their kite lineup. So one of the things I look for when looking to the bars is the color combination, for example. So for instance, I prefer much more to have a bar that has red on the left that I can clearly see if I have priority or not, than having a bar that doesn't. It's a lot harder to see when I'm navigating which one gives me the priority or not, because there is red on the left on all of them, but it's much easier to spot it on this one. So it's actually something I actually prefer to have rather than having different colors that maybe are more pleasing, more aesthetic, but I actually prefer to have something that helps me out when I'm kiting to see if I have priority or not. The other thing I look for is how the quick release system is used, and if it's a push away release like majority are, and if it releases easily. Not only releases easily, but also is easy to reassemble. When it's hard to reassemble, it's also a pain in the ass. You might accidentally touch it and need to reassemble it in the water, and if it's a difficult thing, it's going to give you problems that otherwise wouldn't be existing. So definitely check how it opens and how easy it is to reassemble it. Take care that once they're new, they work well, but once they start to get used, they might not work as good. The newer models are getting better and better. Another thing I search for when I'm looking for a bar is how are the lines? If the lines are sectioned or not. I prefer kites that have sectioned bars that I can extend or take away power by removing extensions of lines. Because I also use it for teaching, for me, these sections are very important. I really want to put them with very short lines and then gradually increase the size if I need more power. Even for my own riding, I really like that I can take away some extensions to make the kite react easierly and faster, or to make it have less power or more power depending on what I need. And also, as last thing, is making sure it has a stopper ball. When the lines are sectioned, a lot of times that works as a stopper ball and it's perfect, so I don't actually need anything physical to stop the bar, as these sections will work. If not, maybe having a stopper ball will help them stop. I prefer the sectioned ones because it's cleaner on the lines when I'm opening up the lines, so having the ball can make it a little bit harder to open it, but it's not a big deal. So make sure you find these 4 things on the bar. So harnesses. So one of the things that happened now that became modular is the spreader bar. Before, if you got a L-size harness, you had one of the big spreader bars, and it kind of was not possible to really proper adjust it for the person, and that was a problem. So you got stuck with a bar that came with a harness, and sometimes it was not the best. Now they're much more modular. So now you buy a separate bar, and you can buy a smaller one or a larger one. And depending on the harness that you have, when you put it, for instance, if I use the larger one on this one, which would be my size, I actually only have a little bit of space here to attach, and it would be my tight fit. As you can see, if I had to use a smaller one, it would be very difficult to attach it properly, and I would be very, very far away from the spreader, making it uncomfortable for me. So this is actually nice that you can actually choose which is the spreader that fits your harness the best, and the one that you actually can get it better and tighter fit. So I definitely recommend and really like that you actually choose your spreader separately. The other thing that they're now not having is the safety knife. So if you're kite surfing, the safety knife is in this little pocket here on this harness, and now comes as an extra. And make sure you get one. It used to become standard, but now the harnesses are also used for other activities as windsurfing or wing, so they don't come with the line cutter. For kite surfing, this is a must. You should always have a line cutter, so in case of need, if something really goes bad and you're tangled in lines, you have a line cutter in your harness, and it's always there, and you can always use it to cut away lines and get free out of it. It's not a common thing. I don't think I ever used the line cutter, but there was once that I actually needed it and I didn't have it. Not for me, it was not a dangerous situation, but it would be very handy to have the line cutter to help out a friend that had his kite attached on a buoy and it was being dragged down under. So it would have been very nice to have the line cutter, and I didn't at that time. Another thing they are taking out is the handle on the back. So now they don't have a handle anymore. This is, again, something extra. But it is something, again, that you also should get. In case of need, in case you're being dragged, that's where people are going to try and grab you, and that's the best place to grab you. If you don't have a handle, you cannot grab the person. So make sure to get a handle as well. Again, this was something that was standard, and it's not anymore. And these 2 things are safety situations. I know that for windsurfing, you don't need it. For wing, you don't need it. But for kite surfing, these 2 things are a must. A leash. Kite leashes you have in various different sizes. So you can have smaller leashes that are closer to you, and you have some longer leashes like this one, which is the more standardized size, and then you have like what they call the handle pass leash, which is a more sturdy one and longer one, so it can actually wrap around you when you're doing handle passes. Make sure that they have, and nowadays all of them have, a good quick release system that works well and opens up in case of need. So this is something that is pretty much standardized. It's also a push away system, so it's just for you to push away from you, and that's pretty much standardized now in all of them. So when you have your leash here, you have it connected into the front, and you basically push away to release, which is what you want. So you should always have the leash in the front, which is the safest place. And if you're not sure why this is so, check the video up here where I show you the differences of placing the leash in front and in the back or in the sides. And you will see that placing it in another place rather than the front can be actually very dangerous. So I definitely recommend to put it here. And the new harnesses come with a connection here. So if you want to have a long one or a short one, it's your preference. Pumps is another thing that you will buy to pump your kite. And you will have one pump for all the kites that you end up buying. So I recommend that you take good care of it. When you take it to the beach, try never to leave the shaft open, because sand will stick to the greasy part of the shaft and then it will go inside of the pump, making it work worse. So make sure to always put the shaft back down, and I recommend put it back in your bag and don't leave it hanging around on the beach, as everybody will use it and in the end it will get much more destroyed. So what I recommend is also to have a pump that has the new systems that can pump both ways or just one by switching a button. This makes it a lot easier to do the last pressure, as it's not doing pressure when pumping upwards, because that can actually be painful for your back as you're making a lot of effort to lift that up. So maintenance on a pump can make the pump last a lot longer. So once you start getting debris and things inside of the pump, open it up, make sure to wash it completely with soap and clean it again. Then put some oil, but make sure the oil is silicone based. No WD-40 or something like that that will destroy the rubbers. Make sure you put a silicone based one that will actually make them work well and better. For the wetsuit, I recommend you find one that suits your climate. So if you have a place that is very cold, get a thicker wetsuit, and if it's very warm, get a thinner one. It really depends how thick you want it to be. One good thing is actually to put a mix of a wetsuit and one of these kind of jackets. These are perfect for you to use on top of the wetsuit, and then you can regulate your temperature for winter or for summer by putting it or taking it away. These jackets are awesome to use over your wetsuit. On the wetsuit itself, one good thing to have is the leg tighteners that allows the legs to not get water shoved inside and make it like a balloon. Surfing wetsuits are prone to do that. Kitesurfing wetsuits normally have these little strips that allow you to lock your ankles so that water doesn't go in. So on the life vests, what I recommend is that the life vest has a space where the harness can sit. So this bottom part is not as thick as the upper part where you have the flotation. So in this case, the harness can just sit above it and not interfere with the harness, making it very comfortable. So basically it's designed to fit the harness right there, maybe with a different color combination, but it's just designed to fit right there. So this is what I recommend to have a life vest, and I recommend that you use one all the time, because in case you have a problem with your kite and you're floating in the ocean, this can help you float better and not get tired as much, and it can be very helpful in case of need. Helmets are another thing that I recommend that you use. They can save you, especially if you're riding on waves. You can get hit by the board itself when you crash because it gets pushed away by the waves. And never use a board leash, because that will make an elastic towards the board and it will come into your direction when it gets out of the water. Even those dog leash kind of leashes are not good. Even though it's 3 meters length and the board will stay much further away, if the kite gets into a kite loop or if it starts pulling you a lot, the board will act like an anchor, and once it gets pushed out of the water, it will come into your direction. Even though it's 3 meters, it still can come straight into you and hit you. If it does, it's going to hurt a lot and it can knock you out and you can die. So make sure not to use a leash, learn how to body drag, and use a helmet in case it comes to your head. On the helmets, make sure it's very comfortable and it sticks nicely onto your head. Recommended some that has some holes that the water can pass through, but most important is that they're comfortable. If you get one that is less bulky, get like a gaff helmet, which is much more tight onto your head. It's really up to you which ones you like and which are your personal preference. Booties and gloves is not my main thing. Here in Portugal, we actually normally don't use it, so I don't really know more tips about them. So if you do, let me know in the comments what you think are the most important things when to look at when you're buying some boots or some gloves. Since I don't have experience, I cannot help you too much with that. I hope you like these tips and that when you're now buying some equipment that you look into these small details. Especially now on the harness parts, there's a lot of parts that have been taken away and being added on as extras because their harnesses are also used for other activities. For kitesurfing, it should be kind of explicit that the shop helps you purchase these accessories that even though they're not used all the time, they will really help you out in case of need. So having the harness with a handle and a line cutter is really, really, really important in terms of safety, and you should make sure that your harness has both of things, as when you'll need them, there's no time to go and get them. So make sure when you get a harness, get also the line cutter and the handle on the back to be able to be always safe and to have these in case of need. And I hope you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and let me know what you thought about it, what you think about these tips. Is there any other tips that you can think of about buying equipment or what equipment works best? Let me know in the comment section below, and I see you on the next video.